The invitation popped up in my Outlook at 9:03 a.m. A meeting with HR and management. 9:30 a.m., conference room C. No subject, no explanation. The kind of message that instantly knots your stomach. I had dedicated 15 years to Ashford and Wells. 15 years of early mornings, late nights, building systems from scratch, mentoring new hires, and quietly fixing problems no one else noticed until they became critical. I'd missed birthdays, anniversaries, even my own mother's funeral for this job. And now here I was, summoned like a student to the principal's office. I didn't panic, not because I wasn't anxious, I was. But something inside me had shifted over the past few months. It was quiet, yet powerful. As I approached conference room C, I passed the espresso machine I'd lobbied to get installed. People still called it Rachel's Coffee Bar. I passed the wall where a framed article showcased our product launch, a project I had engineered behind the scenes while my boss, Brian, took all the credit. I paused just outside the door, drew in a slow breath, and stepped inside. Brian sat at the head of the table, flanked by Karen from HR. Her face wore that carefully crafted expression of corporate sympathy. Brian didn't even try to fake it. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled like a mediocre actor in a courtroom drama. "Rachel," he began, voice dripping with rehearsed gravity. "After 15 years, the company has decided to eliminate your position as part of our strategic realignment." Strategic realignment? I nearly laughed. The same man who once called me irreplaceable was now using pre-written talking points. Karen slid a manila folder across the table. "Inside, you'll find the details of your severance package," she said smoothly. 2 weeks for every year of service, 60 days of continued benefits, and access to outplacement services. I glanced at the folder, then looked back at Brian. "I respect your decision," I said quietly. No protests, no pleading, just calm acceptance. That seemed to throw him off. He blinked, briefly unsettled. "We'll need you to pack your belongings by the end of the day," he added quickly. "And please return your laptop and badge before 5 p.m. I rose, straightened my blazer, and nodded once. "Of course. Thank you for the opportunity." I didn't linger, didn't ask questions. I didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me unravel. I walked out of that room with the same grace I had carried for 15 years. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly guess, was that 2 hours earlier, I had signed the lease for Ashford and Wells's main competitor's new downtown office, a company I had quietly joined as head of strategic development. 3 months earlier, I had received a message on LinkedIn. A recruiter from Laneway Dynamics had reached out. "We've been following your work from afar, Rachel. Would you consider a conversation?" Initially, I brushed it off. Loyalty had been my currency for so long, but something had shifted. Maybe it was Brian taking credit for my ideas one too many times. Maybe it was his decision to promote a junior executive, his golf buddy, despite my warnings that he lacked the technical depth. Or maybe it was just the quiet, gnawing exhaustion of watching others take the spotlight while I remained in the background. So I accepted the meeting. And then another. And another. By the time HR was finalizing my termination letter, I had already secured a full executive package at Laneway: equity shares, leadership authority, and the freedom to build my own team. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was insurance. I returned to my desk and sat quietly, scanning the office as if it were already a memory. People moved, typed, and laughed. Life kept moving, unaware that a shift was about to happen. "Hey," Olivia from accounting said softly, pausing by my desk. "Are you okay?" I smiled. "Actually, I'm fine. Everything's going to be just fine." The box they gave me was too small. I left behind half my things, not because I didn't want them, but because I didn't need them anymore. At 4:58 p.m., I handed my badge to a young intern I barely recognized. She looked surprised. "Are you leaving?" "Apparently," I replied, offering a small smile. As I walked out of Ashford and Wells for the last time, the autumn sun bathed everything in a warm, golden glow. I glanced down at the folder clutched in my hand. my name printed neatly across the top. Tomorrow, a new nameplate would be printed. Rachel Hayes, Head of Strategic Development, Laneway Dynamics. And Monday would be interesting. Monday morning arrived crisp and bright, the kind of autumn day that feels symbolic, like the universe offering a fresh start. I stood in front of the mirrored elevator doors in the sleek lobby of Laneway Dynamics downtown headquarters, adjusting the collar of my navy blazer. No company badge yet, just a sense of calm anticipation and something else. Freedom. As the elevator opened, a receptionist greeted me with a bright smile. "Ms. Hayes, welcome. Mr. Caldwell is expecting you." Grant Caldwell, Laneway's CEO, known for being ruthlessly sharp but loyal to those who earned his trust. We had spoken privately several times over the past few months, our conversations layered with respect and shared vision. I was escorted to the top floor where a polished glass door bore a plaque that read, "Head of Strategic Development, Rachel Hayes. My name, no fine print, no shared credit." Grant rose as I entered, hand extended. "Rachel, you have no idea how thrilled I am to finally have you here." "Thank you for believing in me," I replied. "Especially before anyone else did," he smiled. "Oh, I didn't just believe in you, I ran the numbers. Your work at Ashford Wells led to a 19% increase in client retention over 5 years. We've been chasing that kind of traction for a decade." He walked me through the office, introducing me to my direct reports, and finally led me to a corner conference room where a group of executives waited. No hesitation, no awkward glances, just a seat at the table. The meeting began with a presentation on Laneway's expansion plans, my role in driving client acquisition, integrating technology, and refining market positioning. Then, just as I was outlining my roadmap for the next quarter, Grant added something that made me pause. "We've also cleared the budget for you to build your own team. We want people who share your vision, people you trust." Oh, that moment shifted everything. A door opened, not just metaphorically, but tangibly. For 15 years at Ashford, I had mentored talent, built systems, and lifted others without recognition. When it was time for cuts, none of that had mattered. But now, I had the power to change the game, to give others the opportunities I had fought so hard to create. "Thank you," I said, steadying my voice. "I already have a few names in mind." That night, I sat down and wrote 6 emails, each one carefully worded, respectful, and honest. Subject: a new chapter. Let's talk. Each message went to someone I had mentored at Ashford Wells, developers, analysts, strategists, talented people who had been overlooked, undervalued, or forced to work under managers who claimed their ideas as stepping stones. Within 30 minutes, 3 replies came in. By midnight, all 6. "Yes, Rachel. Tell us where and when." By Tuesday, the fallout began. I was sipping coffee in the Laneway Lounge when my phone buzzed. A LinkedIn notification. 4 of my former team members had updated their job status to open to work. The timing wasn't subtle. Neither were the private messages that followed. Brian just called a meeting asking why half the strategy team is suddenly updating their resumes. Karen from HR stopped by my desk, asking if I'd been in touch with you. I didn't answer. Rumors swirled, teams reshuffled, deliverables delayed, questions whispered behind closed doors. Meanwhile, at Laneway, I work closely with legal and compliance to finalize contracts for my new hires, competitive salaries, flexible hours, and, most importantly, ownership. I made sure every team member had their name attached to what they built. By Wednesday, Grant pulled me aside. "We just had a client reach out, one we lost to Ashford Wells last year. They want to reopen discussions." I raised an eyebrow. "Any idea why?" He shrugged slightly, a hint of a grin. "They specifically asked if Rachel Hayes would be leading the project." That evening, I got an unexpected text from Brian. "Hey, heard you landed somewhere. Congrats. Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long moment. No apology, no acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just a casual attempt to reconnect now that the power balance had shifted. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured a glass of wine and opened the group chat with my soon-to-be team. We swapped stories, laughed about old office politics, and brainstormed plans for the new product line. Then Olivia, usually the quietest in the group, sent a message that made me pause. Rachel, you don't know what this means to us. You believed in us before we believed in ourselves. I'm in 100%. I felt a weight lift from my chest, not pain, relief. For years, I had watched others take credit for my work, downplay my value, and sideline me. Now, I was finally in a place where my voice mattered, and I could make sure theirs did too. This wasn't about revenge. This was about rebuilding the right way, with the right people. As for Brian, well, he was just beginning to learn what happens when you fire the wrong person. By the end of my first week at Laneway, the atmosphere at Ashford and Wells had shifted, and not in the way their leadership had hoped. The first signs came as silence, that eerie hush that settles when people are too nervous to ask questions openly, but are whispering behind closed doors. On Monday morning, I got a message from Jordan, my former data systems analyst. They pulled everyone into a reassurance meeting. Brian tried to sound confident, but people could tell something was off. Someone asked where you were going, and he dodged the question. By Tuesday, I had confirmation that two long-standing clients were reconsidering their contracts with Ashford. They'd reached out through mutual contacts, asking if I was involved in any new projects. And if not, why not? I didn't chase them. I didn't need to. The truth was, the work I'd done at Ashford wasn't just technical. It was about relationships. I had built trust, solved problems, delivered under pressure, and people remembered. At Laneway, my team was forming. Olivia officially accepted her offer and began onboarding. By Wednesday, two more followed. It felt like assembling a dream team, not just for their skills, but for our shared values. Every time someone joined, I felt a deeper satisfaction. This wasn't just about proving I could land on my feet. It was about lifting others with me. That afternoon, as I reviewed integration plans with the engineering lead, my phone buzzed again, another LinkedIn notification. Brian had updated his job title, Chief Strategy Officer. I laughed out loud. No press release, no formal announcement, just a quiet little title change, clearly meant to stabilize perception after my departure. But it reeked of panic. He was scrambling to patch a gap he hadn't even fully understood until I was gone. That night, I got a call from Claire, my old friend in Ashford's legal department. Her voice was hesitant at first, then rushed. "I'm sorry. I didn't know they were going to do that to you." I paused. "Claire, you don't owe me an apology. You weren't the one who made the decision." "I still feel responsible," she sighed. "They had meetings weeks before your termination. I wasn't looped in until the final HR review. But after seeing the fallout, Rachel, they're spiraling because you left, because they didn't see it coming." She continued, voice lower now. "You were the one constant in a sea of turnover. Now Brian is holding meetings every morning, pushing impossible deadlines to look like everything's under control." I didn't say anything. Claire continued. "I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know what you built there, it mattered." Those words stayed with me. By Thursday morning, I sat across from Grant in his office, reviewing the latest updates on our first major product launch. The energy in the room was electric. "Early prototypes are outperforming expectations," he said, tapping the table lightly. "We haven't even announced the official launch date, and we're already getting inbound interest from two firms in the financial sector." "That's because our message is clear," I replied. "Efficiency, transparency, credibility. It's what clients want, and what they remember." Grant studied me for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "You know, Rachel, you've accomplished more in 10 days than some executives manage in an entire year." I smiled at the compliment, but it triggered something deeper in me. I hadn't changed. I'd just finally been seen. Later that afternoon, Olivia stopped by my office holding a coffee, black, with a dash of cinnamon, just the way I liked it. "I still can't believe it," she said, glancing around the space. "You're really the boss now." I laughed. Technically, Grant's the boss. I just get the corner office. No, she said softly. You're the one we follow. You always were. Her words caught me off guard. I thought back to the nights I'd stayed late fixing reports Brian had botched, the weekends I'd spent coaching junior analysts for presentations he'd take credit for. I used to wonder if it was all for nothing. But it wasn't, because now I was building something real. That evening, as I was shutting down for the night, I got a message from Claire. You should know. Brian just requested an emergency board session. Internal rumors say he's blaming structural gaps in strategy performance. They've started reaching out to a recruitment firm for a replacement. He's worried. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed a short reply. He should be, because the dominoes had only just started to fall. By the following Monday, word had officially spread. Ashford and Wells was in trouble. Not the explosive headline-making kind of trouble, but the slow, internal unraveling that leadership scrambles to spin, while employees whisper behind coffee cups. It started with missed deadlines, then client complaints. But the worst part for a company built on perception? Silence from leadership. That morning, I sat in a product strategy meeting at Laneway, outlining our second phase integration plan when Olivia passed me a note across the table. Ashford just pulled out of the Tech Forward conference. No announcement, just gone. I blinked, tucking the note into my folder. Just 3 weeks earlier, Brian had been slated as a keynote speaker at that very event. He'd reminded the team of it at every opportunity. Now he was completely absent. After the meeting, I stepped into the hallway for a call with Grant. Before I could say anything, he spoke first. You've stirred up more movement in the market than I expected, he said, a mix of amusement and admiration in his tone. 3 of Ashford's mid-tier clients reached out this morning. They want demos. They want you. Let's not rush, I replied carefully. We'll talk to the serious ones. The rest can wait. He paused, reading between the lines. You're not doing this just to beat Ashford, are you? I smiled faintly. No, I'm doing this to build something better. If that happens to collapse their house of cards along the way, so be it. That afternoon, another message arrived, this time from Miguel, a junior developer who'd been hesitant about leaving Ashford. Rachel, I think I'm ready. Things are a mess here. They split your old role between 2 execs, neither of whom understand the systems you designed. Yesterday, they asked me to explain the entire project lifecycle in a 30-minute presentation. I've only been here 8 months. Are you still building your team? I replied instantly. Yes, let's meet. By Tuesday, Miguel sat in my office looking 10 years older than when I last saw him. I'm not sure how I lasted this long, he admitted, slumped in his chair. No one seems to know who's in charge anymore. Everything feels reactive, defensive. I nodded slowly. That's what happens when leadership is built on control, not collaboration. The moment the system is shaken, it crumbles. I don't want to survive in that, he said quietly. I want to thrive in something real. You will, I said, sliding a contract across the table. You're not just getting a job, you're getting a voice. He signed without hesitation, as if severing a cord from one story and stepping into another. By midweek, the cracks at Ashford had widened into full-blown fractures. A trusted source forwarded me a company-wide email Brian had sent. We are undergoing a restructuring phase to streamline operations and improve efficiency. We appreciate everyone's continued support during this time of growth and change. The language was pure corporate theater, but the subtext was clear. They were losing control, and fast. That evening, over drinks with Grant and the CFO, we reviewed early projections for Q1. If even half of the leads we generated converted, Laneway would see its strongest growth quarter in 5 years. Rachel, the CFO said, lifting his glass, I think we finally found the missing link. I smiled, raising my own glass in return. It wasn't missing, it was just buried. The next morning, I woke to a voicemail from Claire. Her voice was tight, urgent. Call me, it's important. I called back immediately. She picked up on the first ring. Rachel, it's happening. The board just voted in an emergency session. They're removing Brian. I froze. Not because I didn't see it coming, but because it had happened even faster than I'd expected. They're naming an interim CEO, someone external, full audit of leadership strategy. They're trying to stabilize before more talent walks out. I didn't speak at first. I closed my eyes and exhaled. They never thought it would turn into a movement, I finally said. No, Claire agreed quietly. But you turned your exit into a blueprint, and now people are following it? That afternoon, Grant stepped into my office, a gleam in his eye. You've got a lunch meeting tomorrow with one of Ashford's former clients. Big one. They said they're not interested in rehashing the past. They want to know what you're building next. Good, I replied, glancing at the new project roadmap pinned on my wall. Clean lines, clear phases, a vision I had once tried to bring to Ashford, only to be told it was too ambitious, too risky, too much. Not anymore. Now it was a reality. And Brian, he was learning the hard way that people aren't interchangeable. Influence isn't granted by a title. It's earned through trust, through consistency, through showing up. He had taken my seat at the table for years. Now I was building the whole damn table. By Friday morning, the calls were no longer subtle. Rachel Hayes wasn't just a rumor in the industry. She was a movement. Each day brought new messages, former clients, recruiters, industry peers, even strangers who'd followed my work from afar. Some wanted jobs, others just wanted to say thank you. But the most unexpected call came at 10:47 a.m. from a name I hadn't heard in years, Vanessa Carr. Vanessa was one of Ashford and Wells's top-tier clients, the CFO of a massive logistics conglomerate. She'd hinted more than once that I was the reason she stayed loyal to the company. Our last conversation, over 2 years ago, ended with a warning. If they ever let you go, I won't be far behind. Her voice now was calm, measured, but laced with something deeper. Rachel, she said, I've been watching the shifts at Ashford, your team at Laneway, the new platform. It's impressive. Thank you, I replied cautiously. I didn't expect to hear from you. She hesitated for a moment. You know me. I don't move unless I have a reason. Here's mine. We're ending our contract with Ashford. I blinked, stunned. Seriously? They've lost direction. No leadership, no stability. The interim CEO is just a figurehead, and the board is in chaos. They even asked us to delay our quarterly review because they couldn't get the reporting tools to work. I could already guess why. The systems I had built were being patched together by people who didn't understand how they worked. We're vetting new partners, Vanessa continued. But between us, I want to work with you. I leaned back, staring out the window at the city skyline. I appreciate that, Vanessa. But I don't just take clients anymore. I choose partners, people who value long-term vision. She didn't hesitate. I'm not asking for a discount. I'm offering something bigger. Come in-house, lead our transformation team, executive-level autonomy, equity stake. I froze. That wasn't a consulting gig. That was an empire. After the call, I sat quietly weighing the offer. Laneway had given me a platform, freedom, respect, the space to rebuild. But this was a chance to shape something even bigger. Still, I wasn't ready to walk away from Laneway. Not yet. Olivia, Miguel, and the others weren't just employees. They were people I'd helped restore, people who had trusted me when no one else did. I wasn't ready to leave them. But I wasn't ready to say no to Vanessa either. That night, I met Grant for drinks. He greeted me at a quiet rooftop bar, a knowing smirk on his face. So, he said, swirling his glass. Vanessa Carr? I narrowed my eyes. How do you know? She called me, told me she made you an offer. I raised an eyebrow. And I told her she's lucky you even answered the phone. He paused, then added, but I also told her something else. If you ever want to lead a division, finance, logistics, infrastructure, outside of tech, I'll back you. Every dollar I have. My heart raced. Grant? No, he said firmly. Listen to me. You rebuilt your life in weeks, and you built ours along the way. But I know talent like yours doesn't sit still for long. If this is your next mountain, I won't stop you. I exhaled slowly. It's not about leaving. It's about building where I'm needed most. He nodded, eyes steady. And that's what makes you different from the Bryans of the world. The next morning, as I walked into the office, something struck me. There was a different kind of weight to every step. Not pressure, presence. People stood when I entered. They asked for my input. They listened. Not because I demanded it, because I had earned it. Halfway through the day, Olivia pulled me into a side room grinning. Just so you know, she whispered, Ashford sent another recruiter after Miguel, same guy who ghosted me 3 years ago when I applied for an internal transfer. Miguel chuckled from the doorway. I told them I was flattered, then forwarded the email to our group chat. Nice touch, I said. You should have seen Brian's face, Miguel added, eyes gleaming. He's still lurking, not CEO anymore, but hanging on. That gave me pause. Brian, he was still at Ashford. Just then, a message pinged from Claire. Internal rumor. Brian's trying to position himself as head of innovation to justify staying. No one's buying it. But watch your back. He's not done trying to salvage his reputation. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back, he can try. I've got something he'll never understand. A team that follows me willingly and a future that doesn't need fixing. Because in a few days, Ashford would discover something they weren't prepared for. Their competitor wasn't just hiring, we were expanding. 3 months after I walked out of Ashford and Wells with a cardboard box and a polite smile, I walked into Laneway's executive summit to the sound of a standing ovation. Not because of a speech, not because of a press release, because the new product we launched had just landed Laneway a multi-million-dollar deal. One Ashford had been chasing for years. We didn't win it with flash. We won it with functionality, with real solutions, delivered by a team that had been overlooked, underestimated, and dismissed. The same team now leading one of the fastest-growing development divisions in the industry. But I didn't need applause. I needed impact. And we were just getting started. Earlier that week, the final domino had fallen. Vanessa Carr had called again. But this time, it wasn't another job offer. This time, she called to confirm. We've moved all systems to your team, she said. The transition was seamless. Honestly, I wish we'd done it sooner. I thanked her, and she paused before continuing. There's something else, she added carefully. Brian reached out to us personally. I didn't respond, just listened. I stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. He offered to consult, said he could provide unique insights into your process, since he worked closely with you for so many years. Her voice dripped with irony. I let out a soft laugh. Let me guess, I said. He phrased it like you were partners. Exactly, she replied. But I told him the truth. The only thing he ever contributed was obstruction. And frankly, we're not interested in people who build roadblocks and call them strategy. She ended the call with a promise. She'd introduce us to 2 more logistics clients by quarter end. After the call, I sat quietly, letting it sink in. Brian wasn't just irrelevant now. He was a cautionary tale. A man who built his empire on the backs of others, and had no idea how to hold it together once those people walked away. And the irony? He could have been a mentor, a leader. Instead, he chose control. Now no one was listening. That Friday, we held our first joint strategy retreat, not in a sterile boardroom, but at a converted farmhouse an hour outside the city. Sunlight streamed through tall windows. Whiteboards leaned against exposed brick walls. Post-it notes covered rustic tables. It was the kind of place that invited ideas instead of suffocating them. As we reviewed the upcoming quarter's roadmap, I looked around the room. Miguel was guiding a new intern through our automation workflows. Olivia was fielding client calls with a confidence I hadn't seen in her before. Even Claire, who had finally left Ashford to join us as senior compliance, was smiling in a way she hadn't in years. At one point, someone asked what we should name the new project. I looked at the whiteboard, then quietly wrote, Fix, because that's what we'd done. We'd risen, on our own terms. That evening, I received an email. No subject line, just a single line in the body. We made a mistake. I made a mistake. It was from Brian. Rachel, I'm not asking for sympathy. I just need you to understand. I was under pressure. The board, the investors, the metrics, they pushed and I reacted. I see now what I didn't see then. Your work was the foundation of everything we did. And when you left, it all started to collapse. I've lost almost everything. And I can't help but wonder, what if I'd treated you differently? I hope you're doing well. I'm truly sorry. There was a time I would have clung to that apology, turning it over in my mind, wondering if it could fix what was broken. But not anymore. I didn't need closure from him. I'd already given it to myself. I closed the email and never replied. A few days later, Laneway announced a new internal initiative, the Rachel Hayes Fellowship, an annual program to fund and mentor women in tech who had been pushed out of corporate roles and wanted to start over. The board had voted unanimously. Grant insisted it carry my name. I was stunned. You built this, Rachel, he said. Not just the systems, the people, the culture. You showed us what leadership looks like. For a long moment, I didn't know what to say. So I just nodded. Not out of modesty, but because it felt right. 1 year after I was terminated without warning, I stood in my office, no longer surrounded by silence, but by momentum. A new generation of thinkers and builders who didn't wait for permission to be brilliant. As I looked out over the city, one last message popped up from Miguel. Hey, boss, client just confirmed they're leaving Ashford and coming to us. That makes 8. Also, we're going to need a bigger office. I smiled, heart full, no bitterness, because revenge fades. But legacy? Legacy lasts.